This week's parsha, Behaalotcha. This week's parsha starts off with Aaron and Cohen lighting the menorah. And it's connected to the end of last week's parsha when all the other Nisim, all the other heads of the tribes of the Jewish people brought in tons and tons of cattle. They brought tons of gifts. And it says that when Aaron and Cohen saw this, that his name wasn't part of that list. He didn't make the cut. You know, when you're playing soccer and you go to see if you made the list, he was on the list of those people. So he got very sad. He said, you see, Hashem is punishing me for everything that I did. Hashem is punishing me. So Moshe Rabbeinu tells him, no, you're lighting the menorah will be forever. Your lighting the menorah is a very, very special thing. So this week's parsha is called Parsha Behaalotcha, and it talks about the lighting of the menorah that we had in the time of the temple. But this week's haftarah that we're going to read on Shabbat after Shabbat morning, what is the haftarah? The haftarah is always connected to the parsha. What is the haftarah talks about? And this is how it begins. Zechariah sees a vision. And what is his vision? He sees the menorah. Right? This is the week's haftarah. We're going to read this haftarah. And this week's haftarah, Zechariah sees a vision, and he sees the vision of the menorah. Now, we read this haftarah 2 times a year. When? Now, and also during Hanukkah. These are 2 times of the year we're reading this particular part of the Tanakh, of the Torah, and both of them are talking about the same menorah. Right? So we see a menorah, and so now the question comes down to, if the Torah is telling us about prophets who thousands of years ago seeing menorah, we know one thing is very clear. Every chassid knows, or chassidah, whoever's on there, that when the Torah tells us something, when the Torah is telling you something, it's not telling you an ancient story, it's telling you about how to live today. So we have to ask the question, what does this mean? What is the Torah telling us about the vision of Zechariah seeing this menorah? What does it do with me? I live here. And what's the connection? So we have to understand, we have to ask that's the question. What is the connection between us living here in 2024 and to the vision of Zechariah seeing the menorah, which we're going to be reading this Shabbat? So now let's understand this. Everybody with me? Before I see the yes, there's some questions, any questions? Comments? No. Here's the deal. So let's understand, what is the menorah? And we're going to understand what exactly is the menorah? What exactly did he see, and what was the menorah all about? So the menorah, it says that he saw it was one big solid piece of gold. Now, Baruch Hashem, in the Chabad Russian Center, there's a very nice menorah, right? And we have different menorahs, but our menorahs that we see today, they are put together by different parts, right? They're different parts that are put together. So when he comes with a hammer, with they're well together, big pieces of menorah. But this menorah that he saw was one big piece of gold, right? It was one big piece, and what did it have on it? It had one piece, and on top of the piece of gold was where the oil soot, and on each side of the menorah there were little olives. There were little olives that were, there were olives that were carved out. Also, it was also part of there were little cups, and there were little olives on the menorah itself. So we have to understand, what does this all have to do? What does this have to do with us? In the temple, Rabbi Eliezer has a menorah here from after Hanukkah. How many candles does our menorah today in Hanukkah have? 8. The menorah back then had how many? How many candles? 9. 7, right? 7. Yeah, 1 in the middle and 6, like you said, 6 on the 3 here, 3 here, 1 in the middle. What is the idea of 6? What is the idea of 7? So we know we're going to talk about it for a few minutes, okay? Let's get into this. We're going to talk about what is the idea of 7 of the 7 branches of the menorah, and why is it so? Why the temple was one thing and now it's delivered there and now it's different. So here's the deal: there are 7 types of Jewish people. 7 types of Jewish people. What does that mean? 7 types of Jewish people. Seven templates, if you will. 7. Let's put it this way. We spoke about. I learned with Rabbi Fiddleman here yesterday. All our souls come from the same place. Right? All our souls come from the same place in heaven. Shemaim, God, all our souls come from the same place. What happens? But it's like driving from New York all the way down. If anybody drove from New York here, some souls, when you drive, some people get take off this exit, some people go off this exit, they go to a McDonald's, they go to Roy Rogers, you go to get a Starbucks, you go to get this. Souls, on the drive down, you take an exit or take this way to come down here. So all the souls come from the same place in heaven. As your soul comes into your body, your soul already has a certain form and a certain mission and a certain way it's going to serve Hashem. Right? And these correspond to our 7 emotions. We each have 7 emotions. Now, what does that mean, emotions? I have anger and what emotions? These are the Torah, the Kabbalah discuss the idea we have 7 emotions. So each one of us, that doesn't mean we're just one thing. By each person, one emotion is the most strongest, and the other 6 are the ones that are coming to help that main one, right? So if you're a kind person, that doesn't mean you can't be stingy, right? Or if you're an angry man, doesn't mean you can't be soft, but there's generally one emotional part that leads you, and the other 6 emotions that we have, as we know, we have Chesed, Gvur, Tiferet, Hod, Yesod, and Malchut. We have 6 emotions. We'll talk about them in another class. These are the 6 emotions that we have, and these are also 6 parts of the souls that come into our bodies. So our job in our world, in our time, especially now, is to do what? Is to elevate these 7 emotions. Our number one thing today is to not be a jerk, not be a mean person, that is the number one thing. My father, blessed shalom, blessed memory, he was always telling me, where in the Torah does it say you have to be a nice guy? Show me. You see all these people, they do none. The Torah's entire thing for us today is to work on our midot, to work on ourselves, to become whatever your nature is, to transform it to something more. It's just as simple as that. That is our mission and our time today. The way we work on ourselves is we work on becoming more and different than what we were raised in, what we were born with. How does Hashem help us to do this? Because remember, if we're here and there's sushi and there's a lot of things going on in the world, Hashem gives us what's called the 7 shepherds. For our corresponding to the 7 souls, to the 7 types of Jews, we have what's called 7 shepherds. And these are tzaddikim that are still with us. In other words, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, David, Shlomo, Moshe, and Aaron, 7, right? They're still here with us. And each of their souls are today giving us strength all day long. In fact, the idea that we share their DNA, we share their spiritual DNA. Every person has a part of Moshe Rabbeinu inside of them. So like it says in the Torah here, it says the idea that it says that
Yosef, you missed Yosef.
No, so there's the main ones. So you're right. There's different ways. There's different calculations. There is one in the Talmud. There's one in that we count in the Zohar. But it's generally Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, David, Shlomo, Moshe, and Aaron.
Oh.
Okay? Now, once again, let's talk about this for a second. You know, by Sukkot, right? We have a beautiful sukkah here. Every night of Sukkot, what happens? We have ushpizim. We have these spiritual guests that come, right? But it's not like the first night it's just Avraham, right? If Avraham comes, he's the main guy, but with him come all the rest of the 6, right? Every night you get all of them, right? But who walks in first into the sukkah? Whose main strength comes to give you strength that night? It's Avraham. Who's the second one? Who's the third? Every night is different. So, but every night all the ushpizim are there. So these 7 shepherds are here with us all day long. But if your soul is more connected to Avraham, the other ones are also giving you strength. But your number one thing is that Avraham is continuously giving you the strength, right?
How do you find out?
How do you find out? Speak to everybody else.
Who your soul connected to?
Who's your spiritual animal?
Yeah.
These are good questions. The good news for us, and I'll be honest with you, I'll just give you a side note. The side note is back in the day, what used to be, back before in the times of the temple and beforehand, the Jewish people were 12 tribes, and you knew what tribe you had, and you davened with your sidur, your own sidur. If you were from the tribe of Shimon, you had your own path to God. Shimon had their own sidur, and Levi had their own sidur. Everybody had their own sidur. There was no cross. There wasn't cross path over here. You knew who you were. You knew where your family came from. You had a sidur, and you davened to Hashem. What happened? Because of the galut, because of the times, and so everything, because everybody lost their source. We don't know who they are. Even the Levim and the Kohanim today, they are generally Kalevim, generally Kohanim. But we all daven. This is the rabbi explained to us. The reason why we daven is very important to daven from a Chabad Sidur, is because the Chabad Sidur is called Shar HaKolel. It's the main Sidur that includes everybody together. So too, we have these 7 shepherds. And these 7 shepherds are coming to us all day long and giving us the strength to do one thing, to override ourselves, to transform ourselves, to grow, to control ourselves, and ultimately transform ourselves. Right? We are not tzaddikim. So can't go in the back. There's no button in the back of me saying, today I won't be angry. There's no button. Today I'm going to be happy. There's no button. There's no button to turn on. There's no button to turn off, right? How does it work? over time, if I control my thought and my speech and my action, right? I try to be a better person. I'm able to transform myself I transform myself over time. So these are the 7 shepherds who are coming to give the souls, the 7 types of souls, the strength to overcome themselves, to override and transform themselves, and through themselves transform the world. Now, what does that mean? What do you mean? If I'm transforming myself, how does that mean that the world's got transformed? What's the connection? So the idea is this: every soul on earth has 2 things that came here to fix. 2 things. The godly soul came to this world to transform the animal soul, but also it's called Chelko Be'olam. Every person has a portion in the world that they came down here to fix, right? So that means that by divine providence, this building and this home and this island that was waiting for Rabbi Ezra and the different rabbis and people to live here, there means there's a part here that was waiting to be elevated. And each of us have a different part to be elevated. So wherever Hashem sends you, however you got there, even as the Rebbe says, even if you were driving on the 95 or the 91 and you had to go to the bathroom, so you pulled over and to a stop sign and to the rest stop, and you had to go to the bathroom there, and you made a blessing there, that's because that place needed you. So there's no mistakes of how you ended up in a place. There's no mistakes. Now sometimes we see very clearly, there's a war and a mice, so I show up here and there's a wedding. It becomes very clear, but sometimes I don't understand. Why am I here? How did I end up here? I should have been there. So these 2 things I don't get to try. So one time I met a rabbi, which I'm not going to say where he is. He's a rabbi, and he's an Israeli-Russian guy. And he's a rabbi of a very large Persian community. So I come up to him and say, Rabbi, how do you end up here? How did you end up here? Like, what's the connection? He looks at me and says, the one thing you don't get to choose is Chelko Ba'olam. You don't get to choose where Hashem sends you. And we'll talk about that more, but the idea is that when you come to a place, you're there, and it's time to go, it's time to go. There's a side note. The side note is the following, just as a side note. At the end of the book of Bamidbar ends off with Pashat Maseh, right? It talks about all the journeys of the Jewish people. How many journeys are there? There are 42 journeys, right? It's a very long parsha. The longest reading of the year is when these 2 parshas are together. Why? Because it says the Jewish people went from here and they ended up there. They stopped over here, they went over there 42 times. So the Baal Shem Tov asked the question: who cares? Why do I need to know where they went? Where they said, who cares? What's the difference? Why can't I just say, listen, it was enough. There was a desert down 40 years, that's it. So the Baal Shem Tov says this is a very important thing, that every soul, Kajdev Dusha, is going to go through 42 journeys, journeys in their lifetimes. 42 places you will be coming in your lifetime. Every soul has 42 journeys in a lifetime. And just like they did not know where they're going, how long they're going to be in every place, we don't know how long you're going to be in every place. So just like they were there, one journey could have been a week, a day, a month, a year, 19 years. One journey they went for 19 years. And how did they know it was time to go? The cloud went up, the fire went up. So the one thing that we learned from this very nice idea, it's a side idea, is that the Jewish people showed up and they're going to say, listen, the Mishkan, it's going to take me 3-4 hours just to build, right? They have to come whenever they went whenever they went, that to build this humongous Mishkan, right? The big temple had a lot of parts. They're going to say, screw it, I want to go to bed. I don't want to do this. Because what if we leave tomorrow? Maybe I'm going to be here for 12 hours. I don't know. Why should I build something for 50 hours? If it's going to be 45 hours to build, I may be out of here by tomorrow. But that's precisely what they did. Wherever they were, wherever the Jewish people were, they built the entire thing to a T. Because they said, if I'm here right now, this is it. I'm here right now. I'm exactly where I'm meant to be right now. Right? So this is what I need, the Chelko Ba'olam, the idea that we're here today. And tomorrow we don't know. But today we're here. In this moment I'm here, I'm going to be here fully. So, back to our idea over here. That these 7 souls, these 7 shepherds, are coming to help us to transform ourselves in a portion of the world. When we as Jews walk around, and don't get nervous, when you walk around with a kippah, when you don't want to walk around with a kippah, or you say to make a blessing, and somebody sees you, maybe the whole reason you went to make a blessing in that place is because there was another person who saw, if he could make a blessing, I could also make a blessing. Maybe that's the only reason you went there. As the famous story of their 5th Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Rebbe Maharash, he was the only Rebbe who was really, really, really rich. He actually, don't get nervous, He actually got himself the lottery numbers and he won the lottery 5 times.
Wow.
He won the lottery 5 times. By the time he passed away, the money was gone. But in his lifetime, he had 5, not Rolex says, he had 5 gold watches in each hand. He had money like nothing. Money was like, he was the richest Rebbe. Where was it? It was 1800 years ago, 1837, 1877. The Rebbe Marash, the 5th Lubavitcher Rebbe. But by the time his son was born, the money was gone. And he had, his portion was...
Was he the father of the 6th?
He was the father of the 5th Lubavitcher Rebbe. He was Rebbe Shmuel. Yeah, he was, sorry, I apologize. He was the 4th. And he was a son to his son was the 5th, I apologize. And then his grandson was the previous Rebbe. And
Его фотографии нет, да?
Да, ну,
Его нету.
Нашли, they found one, but they don't want to. They found it, but they don't want to because he wasn't well. He was sick.
Вопрос
Да, давай.
короткий. От Альта Рэба, они все идут как сыновья, кроме последнего Рэба?
So Rebbe Alter Rebbe, it was sin. He posted the bill, it was son-in-law. Tzemach Tzedek,
Был сын.
he posted the bill, it was son-in-law. No, bill of Vnuk, the bill of Vnuk Alter Rebbe, no bill of
Третий был сын-in-law, четвертый,
sin,
пятый,
sin,
шестой.
sin, и наш Rebbe son-in-law. То же самое. So, what happens, just so you realize what happens, there's a famous story, and it goes like this, it's a very quick story. The Rebbe Marash took a lot of money, took all his Hasidim, rented a train, back in those days, they rented a whole train cart. They went to France. They went to Monte Carlo, somewhere in France, in Monte Carlo, they went to France. They went there, they took the entire 50 Hasidim. They rented a floor and a hotel in the casino. Yes, trust me, yes, the building, those days, whatever it was.
In casino, yeah, there was
Cargo.
And so what did he do? No, it wasn't the guitar. Yeah, so he went to the Rebbe, they go inside there. They open up, they undo their bags. The Rebbe Marash goes downstairs to the bar, sees a Jew who was religious at one point, looks at him, and he says, Reb Yid, treif wine, metame the heart, and treif food, metame the mind. He says, non-kosher wine will make your heart dull, non-kosher meat will make your mind dull. That's it. He got up, left, they went back home. That was it. It was the whole reason he went there. He took all his money. The whole reason to go there to tell one Jewish guy one thing, and he got up and left. All the 50 people.
What happened to the Jewish person?
We do not know. We do not know. And that man was Rabbi Dubček's great grandfather. I don't know, but we don't know where that guy was. But the point is that's what it means. Chelka ba'olam means whatever you have, your job is to use it out however you can to transform yourself in the world around it. And these seven shepherds are coming to help us. On a day-to-day basis, what does that look like? We talk about the Jewish people of the menorah, the Jewish people of the candles. Now remember, we're not necessarily talking about candles like the candles we have today. We're talking about what candles used to be like, which is a cup, the oil, and the wick, right? That's what a candle is. So we have to understand that we have these things inside of ourselves as well. We have the cup, we have the oil, we have the wick, and then we have the fire. That's what it is. So what are these 3 things? So we have the Torah, which is the fire, and the oil, that is the mitzvot. And we are the candle, right? Our job is to use the mitzvot to burn the Torah oil. In other words, our job here is to be involved in Torah mitzvahs. That means that is the way we do it. Now, what does that mean? Let's go a little deeper. Don't get nervous here, right? There's so many spiritual movements out there today. And everybody will tell you one thing, right? Everything is one. Everybody knows everything is one, right? So everybody knows everything is one, right? It's all one. Everything is one, and it's all karma. And it's whatever. So what does Judaism tell you that everybody else is not telling you? Torah and mitzvahs are coming to tell you how in this whole, everything is one, how you are bringing down the light of Hashem into the one. In other words, our purpose is to bring into the whole vastity of the Hashem is everything, is to bring down and transform the world through our souls. So what does that mean? That means when Natan does a mitzvah and Rabbi Alex does a mitzvah, even though you may be doing I'm doing the same mitzvah, who cares? But his soul being born at a certain time, under a certain constellation, through 2 parents at a certain time, his soul brings down a light of God that no one ever can bring before aside from him. And therefore, if he doesn't put on tefillin, the whole world is not complete. You understand the difference? It's not like, okay, I put on tefillin yesterday, who cares? Well, I already did it. What do you want from me? I'm tired already, But the whole idea is the time, the space continuum, my soul bringing down a certain light, bringing Hashem into this world, nobody else could do that. But that was all one way. That was the time of the temple. Everybody clear so far what we talked about? Seven shepherds helping the 7 types of souls to transform themselves in the world through Torah mitzvahs. The more Torah mitzvahs we do, the more we're able to elevate ourselves in the world. But what do we have? We have some issues here. This is Mimer. The Mimer is going to say a few things right now. We're going to go into this. This is so far just a general idea of what we're talking about here. We're going to have some issues here. And the issue is the following. And we're reading inside here. Is Zechariah, who saw the vision of the Jewish of the menorah, being one mikshachad, he says this is the Jewish people. They're one piece of soul. They're solid gold. The prophets before him, namely Yecheskel and what's the name? Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah. What did he call the Jewish people? He lived in the time of the temple. The temple stood, and what did Yirmiyahu call the Jewish people? What did he call them? Remember, the temple is alive, the Jewish people walking around with big funny hats, everything. What were the Jewish people then? He said they're kesef, they're just silver, right? Silver, not only silver, malted silver. Now, you go to buy yourself for jewelry, right? Somebody buys what's more expensive, gold or silver? Right. So first of all, and another one over here, Yecheskel. So if Yecheskel, Yirmiyahu, and Zechariah, 3 different. And what did Yecheskel call the Jewish people? He called them sediments. What is sediments? Sediments is the things that's left over after, like the piece of the parts of the nothing. So the question is, how is it possible that the 2 bigger prophets, Yecheskel and Yirmiyahu, are calling the Jewish people nothing? And he took presti. He's telling the Jewish people nothing. And the prophet, Zechariah, who lived much later, saw that the Jewish people are gold. So what's the difference? One was talking about in the times of the Beit HaMikdash, and one is talking about at the time of Galut. When Zechariah saw the Jewish people being one piece, right? That was right now. That was also in the future to come, Mashiach comes. But right now, the Jewish people are solid gold. Now, we have to tell them what that means. We've got to talk about what this means, because this is everything. The whole Maimer is going to come down to these few ideas. We talk about the idea that in a menorah itself, right? You look over there, your menorah, you have the top of the menorah, the bottom of the menorah, the big part of the menorah, you have different parts of the menorah. So you could say, fine, the Jewish people are one, but there are different parts of them. Some people are a little holier, some people less holier, some people are this, some people that, everybody's different. But the idea that he said that they're one thing, one entity, this idea that the Jewish people are one entity, that means like this, that in our time that we're living right now, in the time of Galut, right now, and until the time of Mashiach and beyond, no one here is different than anybody else. Even if the guy puts out 4 pairs of tefillin, 3 pairs of tefillin, no pairs of tefillin, if the guy right now is on the beach eating shashlik, every single person today is exactly the same entity. Now, how is it possible? What do you mean? So let's put it this way. If you take a piece of gold, if you take a piece of metal, can you tell the difference between one and the other piece? It's one entity. It's one thing. It's one idea. There's no 2 pieces here. So what does that mean? But excuse me, I put on film today. This guy is married to this, and he did. Excuse me, you know who I am? How is that possible then? Because the unity that exists. If this morning, I woke up and I had the strength to put on tefillin, where did I get the strength from? I got the strength from the guy who had to go eat the shashlik. We are sharing the same strength. It's not my strength. It's not me that I'm better than you. We are sharing each other's strength. We are the same exact thing. So when you wake up in the morning, tomorrow you wake up and you don't feel like you don't feel like doing anything. It's because perhaps you gave your strength to somebody else today, who ended up waking up and he felt good because Hashem gave it to him today because he needed it. Do you understand the idea? The idea is the Abati right now. And they're saying, no. And when you get there, you'll make a blessing, and a Jewish person will see you make a blessing, and the Jewish person will, and then you'll help them. This is the idea. Avat Yisrael isn't October 7th, Avat Yisrael. No. We are one mikshachad. We are one piece of gold. There is no difference. What do you mean? In other words, why? Why do we know this now? How come they didn't know this then? Because we're in the time of galut. Because we're in the time of darkness. The Torah that's being revealed to us, the essence of the Torah, the Chassidut, the Kabbalah is being revealed to us. It's telling us something much deeper. That we are all one entity. So Jewish unity isn't, let me pretend to like this guy. I really think that he's no. There's no pretending here. Every one of us does the same exact thing. So how does that look like? It looks like this. It says, En chavush matir et atzmo. A person who's in prison cannot get themselves out of prison. You know, in the movies, in the TV shows, right? We see the guard is sleeping, you know, in the jail. So the guy goes, steals his keys and takes himself out. No. If we are in a spiritual prison today, however it looks like, we don't have to talk about it right now, we're our own personal darkness, we do not have our own strength to get out. Who could get us out? Natan could get me out. What do you mean Natan? Yeah. Why? Because Hashem, even though we're all one part, one piece of Hashem gives Natan a strength that I don't have. Natan sees things that I can't see. Even though, what do you mean? That's how it works. Hashem gives Natan the keys to my prison, and Hashem gives me the keys to this guy's prison. So there's no moment in which I walk around feeling at any point that I'm like, every one of us has to be there for another person. We are all one piece of gold. We're all one piece of thing. We're all one. So when we understand that every single thing that happens to me, from my good days to my not good days, to my afternoons, to my this, the halacha is that if you're walking down the street, you lost your wallet, and some poor man found it, you did a mitzvah. What do you mean I did it? The bastard took my money. I want my money back. You did a mitzvah. You didn't want to do a mitzvah. You weren't planning to do a mitzvah. Hashem decided you're going to do a mitzvah. Same exact thing here. I woke up in the morning and my strength was not there because Hashem decided today there's somebody else who's going to take your strength. Now, you have a choice. You want to find more strength, a deeper strength, but the strength you had like yesterday is gone because somebody else came and borrowed it. And so we have to understand that this is spiritually how it's working. Spiritually, it's a very different time right now. So in other words, spiritually right now, we're talking about a very different time. So the main mitzvah right now is the mitzvah of Avat Yisrael. Why? Even though it looks, like I said, it's very PC, it's a very nice idea. Avat Yisrael, love your fellow Jewish unity. Because at the end, the bottom line of the whole of where we are right now, the bottom line of historically where you are right now, this is the greatest time of Jewish time. This is the greatest time of Jewish history. We have the most accessibility to, because the darker we became, the more light there is between us. And so we have to reveal that light. We're going back to our 7 shepherds, helping transform ourselves. Now, let's be honest. We all know what's going to happen here. We're going to turn the cameras off. We're going to go home. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Have a good night. See you tomorrow. Mañana. We'll see you next week. How do we grow? How do you ultimately grow? How do you say grow? How do you do it? How do you spiritually grow? So let's understand this. On the menorah itself, on the candles itself, you saw the pictures of what they looked like. It had little olives. There were little olives there. Now, what are the olives? With the Rambam, if you want to have a lot of time, the Rebbe has many talks about the Rambam's picture of the menorah, what it looked like, what it represented. But this one idea of the olives, which is amazing. You're the candle. Next to you are these 2 olives. What is an olive? Anybody ever had an olive? You go to Israel, right? You know, those olives. You ever tasted an olive from the tree? It's bitter. It's a bitter thing. It's not, right? Black olives are a little better, but green olives are bitter. They're bitter things. What do you mean bitter? It's not sweet. But what happens when you take an olive and you crush it? What comes out of the olive when you crush it? Oil, right? What is oil? Oil is sweet. Oil has not sweet. It has a different component to it. So our job, as we said before, right? How are you going to grow? The growth comes from the olive itself. Now we're going to talk about it because this is where it gets a little technical, but not technical, because I once was driving with Rabbi Manis Friedman. Manis Friedman, a big fan of Rabbi Manis Friedman. I spoke to him many times. Whatever. It was before Gimel Tammuz. And I said, what are we supposed to do now? That's time to get depressed. What are we supposed to do? He said the idea of becoming embittered. So I was like, what is it bitter? What does it mean to be bitter?
What happened in Gimel Tammuz?
Gimel Tammuz, for those people who do know, Gimel Tammuz, it's going to happen. It's the day when the day of the passing of the Rebbe. This year's 30 years. We should go to the Ohel if the rabbis put together a trip, or write to the Rebbe. We'll talk about. There's another class beforehand, so I'm sure the rabbis will talk about it again. But before Gimel Tammuz, it's a very hard time. This year's 30 years to Gimel Tammuz. So I asked him, what are you supposed to do? So he says the word bitter. And I think, what is bitter? It's either I'm going to be happy or be depressed, right? What does bitter mean? Either I drink my ways or I'm depressed. What does bitter mean? So let's put it this way. Bitter means, and this is where it gets a little technical. His words to me were the following. That when you see how much the Rebbe did in the world and the fact that Mashiach is not here yet, that should make you feel like, that should make us feel a little like, really? And we should do extra. The bitter is not depressed, and the bitter is not feeling like nothing matters. Bitter is this moment where I see that I could have done better. I could do a little better, right? Bitter is a very interesting word because in Judaism today, especially Hasidic philosophy, we stay away from depression, we stay away from sadness, and we try to only stick to the joy, right? Because we know what's our problem. Then once I go down the bitter path, I'm going to go down into, I could cycle down into so much worse. Let's understand this. So within this olive, the whole idea of the olive is that you crush the olive to reveal what's higher. So what does that look like today? Just what we talked about when you first came here. Everything bad that we, in my mind, say this is bad, good, we put these ideas. It's ultimately for the good. Everything that looks the opposite of good, ultimately is for the good. So, in the book of Tanya, the Alter Rebbe says you should sit for an hour a day and think about the bad things you did. And hopefully, you'll transform. This was then. We don't do that anymore. How do we do it anymore? Because the Rebbe Rashab, the 6th Lubavitcher Rebbe, showed up and said, how do you change? He said, sit and think about your deeds, but the not good things you did once a week. The Alter Rebbe says every day. The Rebbe Rashab says once a week. The previous Rebbe says, we can't serve Hashem with any sort of sadness. So what is between sadness and bitter? We can't go to sadness. So anytime, this is where it gets crazy, right? If it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Tuesday, and I start thinking something sad about what I did 2 days ago about my Mariv, or I ate tray food 3 days ago, that's the Yetzer Hara. In other words, your godly soul, the part of you that God will not come to try to make you sad about a mitzvah you missed or something that happened a week and a half ago. So in other words, we have to be very, but so how do we grow? If we can't be bitter is the way we grow. When something we start looking at our life that the way we change ourselves is through going through bitterness. So it goes like this. And then with this, the way we grow today is when I make a mistake. There's a moment I'm already bitter, but I realize I made a mistake. The moment I realize, I could have answered this question differently, I could have done this differently, I missed an opportunity. In that very moment, I said, I'm transforming this thing. I'm going to use this moment instead of going into the whole rabbits go all the way down into the sadness and start feeling bad about myself. The moment I realize I missed an opportunity, right then and there, I use it as a catalyst. I transform it and say, okay, next time I'm doing better. In other words, the bitterness is how much I could have done and how much I will do more better next time. Not to start thinking, I'm such a this, I'm a horrible person, I did this horrible thing. Because the Yetzer Hara, because your godly soul, the godly part of us will not come to depress you about a shachrit you missed yesterday. It doesn't work that way. We have to look forward and we have to keep moving and we have to grow today by being the olive. We have to take the darkness, when it gets crushed, to reveal something higher. So we reveal it right away. So here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. What's the takeaway here? For the time we're here, so we're done. The takeaway is the following. We're living in the greatest time of Jewish history. Every person here has strength to do things they can't even imagine they could have done. So even if you don't know where to keep all day long, I know that there's kashut, my neighbors, wear kippah for an hour. Wear kippah in the house. I go out, I take it off. Or wear kippah for a little bit of time. Because you don't know the effect this will have, not only on your neighbors, but on yourself and your home, right? In other words, miksha achad. Miksha achad means it's all good. As horrible as things look right now, sometimes they look bad. That's why we're not talking about those things right now. But understand one thing: that Hashem is creating everything He's creating to bring out more unity between us. So everything that's going on in the world right now is not bringing to say, "Oh, I don't understand. I thought anti-Semitism is over." Anti-Semitism it's coming to bring a deeper level of unity between the Jewish people, which is what this Maimer is talking about. Everything that's happening is coming out to bring more unity and more togetherness. So we don't have to wait for bad things to do, to wake up and say, listen, I take my phone, I go through my list of 5 people today, I say, Shabbat Shalom, come to the shul tomorrow. No, why should I bother to say, come to the shul tomorrow? Because you do not know who's waiting, who's right now, like a right person waiting for you to call them. I tell you the story, and with this we'll finish. When my father passed away a few years ago, I was on the campus in Amherst, Massachusetts. It was Saturday morning. It was in the middle of the Shloshim. And everybody's laughing at me because it's Saturday morning at campus. Everybody's sleeping. I'm trying to get a minute to say Kaddish. Trust me, nobody's there. There's nowhere to go to. So I'm knocking on doors, API, whatever it is. And I'm trying. I get 9 people. They're like, hey, Rabbi, we're here. So I go outside. I'm like, I'm going to try one more time. 50 steps away from where we were. There's a Jewish guy standing there. I see he was an older guy, came to visit his son with a sweatshirt in Hebrew. It said Amherst. So I came up to him and said, sir, can you come and help me to say Kaddish for my father? He looks at me and he says, I was waiting to be asked.
Wow.
I was waiting for someone to ask. So all of us, we arrived. So we were just this. Okay, this we get so a few more people. Next, no, the idea that there's not more people in this class and this it does. Our job is, as long as we're here today, is to use everything to bring out the Miksha Achat, to bring out how every single Jewish person is one, and everybody's waiting to be asked. They're all waiting to ask. So guess what? Some people are going to go, and don't get nervous, to Shuvah Yisrael because they like the rabbi with this hat. Some people are going to go to the rabbi with no hat. Some people are going to go to no rabbi. Some people are going to go to Rabbi Eliezer in his home, but this is the Chabad house. This is how they're going to connect. And some people are going to go to every person here. This is how it works. This is where you are. You went to Rabbi Dolphin. You went to a Chabad house. Hashem sent you there. There are 5 Jews. You're like the Reb Marash. 5 Jews. And then Hashem will send you somewhere else. That's why we're here. We are one, and every single person is on board now. And you may say, what do you mean? It's there. Rosh is there. That's what it means. The Mashiach is here already. We are the only ones who have to convince ourselves that it's happening because we don't see. We're like, it's trying to do it. They're already. If we're here, you see, if we got here, right? Do me. We could all have been in a club ourselves, right? If we ended up here, that means every other person could also come here. What's the only difference? Don't be afraid to ask them. Don't be afraid to come with a challah, with a bottle of the vodka. Come, and again, and again, and again, because that's the mishachad. That's what we're doing here today. So let's say it all again one time, and we summon. It goes like this: in the time of the temple, the menorah represented one thing, one way of serving God, not one way through 7 souls and 7 shepherds. And today, in the time of Galut, the number one thing is the Avat Yisrael. The number one thing is the unity of the Jewish people. And the moment we feel that we're more holier than the other guy, we have to remember, maybe this guy gave me his strength and I got this way because of him. And as the Alter Rebbe says in the 32nd paragraph chapter of Tanya, we don't know who's more religious. You don't know where souls are. How can you tell? Because nobody knows anybody whose souls are higher. I mean, how do you know? Maybe this souls came back for waiting for somebody to come and pull them in and they didn't come yet. So we don't judge. Because there's nothing to judge. There's nothing to say. I want to say this is the greatest thing. You're going to love this thing. Because this is the Chidush. I believe we were having a class talking about things. And this last year, I think it was Boris who said it. One of these, Boris's brother, he said, Zachariah, let me make sure I say this right because we don't want to make some case. Someone's going to come and tell me I said this wrong. So he said that Yirmiyahu called the Jewish people silver. Yecheskel called them sediments, nothing. Zechariah called us gold, and the Rebbe called us diamonds. The Rebbe called you a diamond. What does it mean, a diamond? You know the famous story, right? The old woman who came to the Rebbe, she was like 75, and the Rebbe is 92 years old, standing there all day long, right? Now we may think it's a cute story. The Rebbe says, she said, Rabbi, aren't you tired? The Rebbe stood there for 7 hours giving out the dollars. A 92-year-old man giving out dollars for thousands of people. She said, she's an older woman. She said, Rabbi, I'm an older woman. How are you doing this all day long? So the Rebbe says to her, I'm counting diamonds. Can you ever get tired counting diamonds? So when you think about it, right, you may think, okay, the Rebbe said a nice word, but the Rebbe called us diamonds. How did a real diamond get made? How does a real diamond get made?
The stone and you polish it.
No, you take the coal and it gets under so much pressure, right? How does a real diamond get made?
Compressed carbon.
So how much pressed? Until the idea that the diamond is formed, right? That under so much pressure, that's what the Rebbe is calling us. The amount of pressure that we're under today, the amount of pressure that you're on today, you're diamonds. Gold is everything has a lot of meanings. Gold and silver and all these different things. But the idea that the Rebbe is calling you a diamond, because the diamond is coming out of the greatest pressure in the world, you have to think about it. And when you think about it, like, oh my God, so it's like all these tzaddikim are calling the Jewish people different things at different times. And at our time, the Rebbe is calling you a diamond. So take it, live it. You should earn it. We should understand. It's one day when Mashiach comes, we're going to talk about this class. It's going to be a scroll, and they're going to talk about these days at the class. I'm not joking. It was people going to talk about it. Was it where? It was a 361, 163. What did it all mean? Exactly, and it's happening. Listen, this is what it means right now. We don't see it because we're in Galut, but this is what's going on. One day we're going to talk about this and how this kept us strong in the time of Galut. Because we're diamonds right now.